Welcome everyone to Taste Different Game Reviews. And tonight, we're going to discuss Redfall. Redfall is a first-person shooter video game developed by Arcane Austin and published by Bethesda Softworks. It was released on Windows and Xbox Series X and S May 2nd, 2023. It's an open world first person shooter. You know, it's got some single player and cooperative aspects to it. You pick a fighter and they each have their own abilities and specials and all that kind of stuff. And the game is set in a fictional island town of Redfall, Massachusetts. Some type of weird experiment happened, and now there's a legion of vampires invading this town. So it's a game. I'll just leave it at that, and we'll kind of go round robin to see what everybody thinks of this first $70 game by a Microsoft Studios. So, Nick, how about you lead us off on this game of Redfall? Let us know what your initial thoughts are and what you think of this $70 game.
On paper, the idea of Redfall sounds good. You got a cooperative game, looter shooter, set in a fictional town in Massachusetts, like you said, a fictional version of Massachusetts. You got your characters with special abilities. They're all different from one another, have their own personalities. And you're fighting vampires. And again, in a cooperative setting, you get to explore, loot treasure, and find out all the secrets of Redfall. It sounds great on paper. Except for Arcane took that paper, lit it on fire, and threw it in the dumpster. Because this game is a dumpster fire. This game has... I don't even know how it made it outside of, like, the studio. Like, for you to purchase. Right? Like, who approved this, stamped the game to say, yep, it's good to go. They must have been drunk that day. Or played a different game. Maybe they played Wolfenstein instead. You know, that comes from Bethesda. So they were like, oh yeah, this game's awesome. Whoops, wrong one, right? I honestly don't know how this got out the door. This game is so broken, it's not even funny. I've seen early access games that are less broken than this game. There is stuff that just either it works and then it decides not to work, or stuff that just doesn't work. There's textures missing from things. There's textures that are still using the low polygon version of that texture. There are, missions will sometimes be like, yeah, everyone's got the mission. Let's go do it. And it's fine. And then sometimes it's like, everyone's got the mission. We go there and the game's like, no, you don't. And then we're like, okay. And we go back and try it again. This game runs at 30 frames per second, and it shows. And, but it has, and the special effects that the characters have are cool and things like that. I mean, it's again, the idea is there, right? The idea is cool. The idea sounds fun. It's not even just the execution. It's the execution and everything else does not work, right? And that's we've played games where like everything works, and the idea sounds fun, but the execution just wasn't on there. It just wasn't there. This game is like nothing's there, right? I can't believe how many things just break in this game, where AI just either decides it's going to stop working altogether, or the enemy just stands there and you just shoot it full of holes and then kill it, or the AI just like wanders off, or vampires, they zip around like everywhere, but they just keep zipping around. Like they never stop to even fight anything. They just zip, zip, zip. Guns that the animation stops working, or my gun shot from the side. Like my guy was holding it, not straight, but holding it to the left, but yet my bullets were coming out straight. Really weird. Like just all sorts of weird things happen with this game. We had it the other night, we were playing in Shane's character model. For Shane, it was my character model, but for me and Pat, it was Shane's character model was just stuck in the room with us in a running animation. Shane was playing his character and running around and doing whatever, but his character model was just stuck in the room. The problem that Redfall and Arcane is going to have with this game is, they promise to fix these issues. The problem is by the time they get these issues fixed, because there's a laundry list of issues, no one's going to give a crap. Everyone's already not giving a crap. And the longer it takes for them to fix the issues that it has, and there's a lot, no one's going to care about it. I mean, this game, much like the vampires, is DOA. Okay. So I don't know what else more to say about it. There are some, I don't want to say there's good things. There's good ideas, right? I get where Arcane was kind of going with this, and I like it. But everything is just completely broken in this. Like, I just don't know, especially coming from a studio like Arcane, published by Bethesda and owned by Microsoft. Like, I don't know who didn't just put the stop to this and say, this is not going out the door as a $70 game. I mean, this isn't even worth this is worth like $10 if you wanted to test it out for them. This is how much it looks. It looks like alpha, not beta. This is like alpha stuff. I mean, there's so many things broken, so many low textures, so many things that just don't work. And the 30 frames per second, like I said, it shows, because there are a lot of times where the frames will just crash to like single digits. There's stuff that we tried last night where they're called the vampire layers. Again, cool idea, except for in there, it seems like the frame rates go from 30 to 5,000. Like, I don't know. It's insanely fast when you go in there. It's like the frame timing is totally off when you go into those things. It speeds up so high. It's like watching a movie on 120 frames per second or something like that. It's just weirdly too fast for what it's for what it's set to, right? It's just really kind of disorienting in a sense. But the layers are a cool idea. But again, the whole world too, for the last thing I'll say here before we go to Shane, is even the world, which the world is cool, but there's nothing in it. Like for the longest time, you will sit there roaming the street and nothing is going on. There's no enemies. There's just nothing. No vampires, no dudes waiting around to shoot at you, the cultists and stuff, because you have cultists and vampires. There's just nothing. It's just an empty world full of empty things. Lots of stuff to loot, but it seems like everything you loot is just for money, unless you want to loot the guns and stuff. And, that's kind of a mixed bag there. So it seems like this game is missing a lot of things. But Shane, what do you think about Redfall?
No, I disagree. I love it. It's like coming home and slamming your testicles in a drawer. That's how much fun it is. With everything is broken and everything's falling apart, and the glitches are kind of funny. I mean, that's how bad it is. It's kind of funny. I mean, there's Nick's character standing in a room next to Nick. He's moving, but and of course, they were seeing me, but I was seeing Nick. So it's like, there's so many problems with the game. I don't want to, I can't go into all the brokenness of this game. I mean, this thing is just janky as hell. So I'll concentrate on the game itself. The game itself, like Nick said, on paper is a really cool idea. And at times the game was fun when it wasn't broken, because of co-op though. But I agree with Nick. I mean, there's nothing to do between point A and point B 75 to 80% of the time. You don't run across anything except for, exploding barrel. Watch Pat. Boom. I shoot it. Pat gets burnt up. I mean, that's all you could do between, 5-minute walks, because the map is nice size. And I like a lot of what's on the map, but there's a lot of dressing too. There's a lot of things you can't go up to or go into or anything like that. So there's a lot of dressing to make it look more than really what there is, but it's an interesting look. The gunplay is not great at all. I don't know if you guys ran across, but to me, every weapon felt like every weapon. We were playing on normal difficulty, if I remember right, Pat. We were playing on normal, but the game was not difficult whatsoever. The underbosses were underpowered. Don't get me wrong. I don't want my balls handed to me, but I want to be able to have a challenge. I want to be able to kind of go at the end of the boss battle. That's what you expect, especially out of a vampire game. And the underbosses were really underwhelming, and that was really crappy. I like the dungeon areas. I thought they were neat, but Nick is right. You go in, and then you go back to a normal pace, and it was weird. But, they're interesting areas. They have a lot of promise that it doesn't matter if they achieve it or not. It's going to be too late. Now, they might get lucky and No Man's Sky this thing and make it completely different at some point. But, No Man's Sky took a heavy hit because they didn't deliver what they were promising at the beginning, and Redfall's doing the same thing. It's really heart-wrenching. Your specials are really the biggest disappointments to me. I picked, I can't remember her name, but she has bullet hair. I picked her because the words bullet hair. And what it is a shield ability that I can also release and knock people down or kill them with it. I hardly ever used it. It was really very useless. And then you have another ability with her where I did use it a lot. It creates basically a jumping platform to help you get up higher. That one I used a lot. And then you have your super, which I have no idea what my super does because I used it once when I unlocked it. That was it. Left bumper, right bumper. I'm supposed to do something cool. I have no idea what it does because it was pointless. I ran into nothing that really required it. I mean, even in a herd of enemies, didn't really need it. So, all in all, the game, as without the brokenness, the game is mediocre at best. If it ran just fine, it would be mediocre at best right now. But with the brokenness of it, it's crap. It is, it's not early access. It's pre-access. I mean, it's, somebody, leaked the code out online and they were like, crap, well, we might as well put it out. So that's the way I feel about the game. What about you, Pat? Nosferatu?
I have to say that Phil Spencer didn't play this game.
No, he did not.
If he played this game and let it out the door the way it is, he's got some splaining to do, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's bad. It's all around bad. Like, it should have been pushed. I'm pretty sure it was pushed already once before, right? And now that it should have been pushed again. I don't know what they did in the times between when they said it was going to push the first time and this time, but it is a bug fest and a half. I mean, it's just one issue after the other. Like, I don't know how many times I would see Nick or Shane running around in the game, their character's moving, but they're like T-pose the whole time. Their character's just running around like that. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Or you would see duplicates of the character in some weird, random, strange pose. Like when we saw Shane character just in a running stance in a room and Shane comes running up the stairs, and I'm like, oh, this is weird, but that stuff like that happened. Enemies have AI pathing issues like left and right. Like, I don't know how many times especially the vampires, would just like whip past you. And then you're like, where'd he go? And then they would come running back and run past you again. You're like, are they going to stop? Or am I just got to shoot him when he's like darting back and forth, not attacking anything, just enough to kill him so that I could stake him or something, or whatever. And then the regular enemies, the non-vampire ones, they're idiots. They don't shoot stuff half the time, or they're just shooting wildly at nothing, or they sit there and they're like, they see you and they got the little question mark exclamation point going across their head. Like, oh, we spotted something, but they're just sitting there doing that. And you're like, all right, I'm just going to shoot you in the face with my shotgun because I'm like 2 inches away from you. And you're just sitting there going dumbfounded look on your face, stuff like that's really weird. just movement around in the game is kind of weird. They have a lot of cramped areas in the game. Like you're in houses a lot of times, clearing things out, and there's no player clipping. So there's plenty of times where in a 3-player game, I'm trying to get in the room to open the chest, but those guys are in the doorway, and I'm like, this is stupid. Or there's not enough room for 3 people to crowd around the chest to look and see what's in there or something. I think stuff like that just didn't make any sense. It's like, okay, I can't get anywhere because I'm either blocked in by my friends because it's a it's a multiplayer game where player clipping isn't turned on. So it's like I cannot run through them. I have to go around them or jump over them or whatever. So just weird stuff like that. And yeah, the ultimate abilities, I very rarely used it. I played like the combat engineer chick, and she has a robot that can taunt the enemies, or throw C4 or heals the entire party. And I would always forget about it because the enemies were just so stupidly easy. I think we died mostly to fall damage in the game because it's really weird threshold where there's like really high and you fall and it doesn't hurt. And then there's like a little bitty threshold where if you're just high enough and you fall, you'll die. And you're like, well, what's going on here? So it's just a weird concept. And I thought it was going to be pretty good. An open world, looter shooter game with your friends and running quests and missions with vampires. Just like all these guys said, it was a cool concept. But as soon as I loaded it up and I saw the cartoonish looking vampires in the opening cutscene, and I'm just like, this looks bad. It looks like they have said, it's something that's pre-alpha. It's like, I don't know how Microsoft is overseeing all of the, the Bethesda and Arcane, all that, and allowed this to go out the door at all. They ought to be ashamed of themselves for this because, and I don't know, is it Arcane's fault? Because Arcane puts out pretty good, I shouldn't say pretty good, decent stuff. It's not my cup of tea. Like Prey is okay. Dishonored's okay. They're not my cup of tea games, but they're not bad games. They got a really good amount of following. People love their stuff, but this is just horrid. It's a really horrible game with lots of issues. And I don't know if they could fix it in any quick succession. Before people are, because right now I think people are already done with it. I mean, it was hard enough to get all of us together to want to play through it. Because after we played through it a couple of nights, I think everybody was like, this game is just trash. And so trying to get together and more times was just, everybody was washing their hair, So it was, I don't know. It's a rough game. And I don't know if there is any fixing it. It's just too many issues. Everything is broken in this game. They need to, if this was an MMO, I'd be like, they need to Final Fantasy 14 this crap, drop a meteor on it and start over from scratch. But I just cannot believe this. I mean, I have to believe that Phil Spencer played this game before it came out. And if he okayed it, something's wrong. And I think he did play it. And I think the problem is that Microsoft's sweating that they don't have any exclusives. There's not even exclusives, but their studios aren't pumping out anything in relative time. So this kind of makes me worry for Starfield and stuff like that. I am really worried for Starfield now because of some crap like this. I don't know. I'm really, really worried about upcoming games. And I'm really worried about the state of Microsoft at this point. Uncle Phil let this out the bag when he shouldn't have. And the $70 price tag, that is hugely disappointing. This game is not anywhere near $70 worth. To me, if it wasn't for Game Pass and I bought this, we would have reviewed it, but I would have reviewed it with the hour that you get to play it before you can't refund it anymore. Hour or 2 hours, whatever. I'd have refunded the shit out of this game for $70. Well, I'd have been like, nah, screw this. If it wasn't for Game Pass, it wouldn't have got more than the time allotted before you can't refund it for me. So it's bad. It's that bad. Like, just it's borderline unplayable. It's not fun. By yourself, it's definitely not fun. Co-op is the only reason it's fun, and that was the only thing good about this game was co-op, but it just doesn't work well. So if it wasn't for playing with these guys, I wouldn't have played it anymore after the first couple of times getting into it.
Yeah. I mean, this is worse than Bargain Bin, right? I mean, This is not even a Bargain Bin game. This is like the scum underneath the Bargain Bin, right? I hate to say that. I hate to say that because Arcane, I'm not a huge fan of every game that Arcane makes, right? And Arcane when they first come out with their games, may have bugs and some issues here and there with them, but they're not to this level, right? I mean, like the guys have said there, and like I said at the beginning, I mean, this is like alpha, pre-alpha. I mean, this is like someone's just started making the game, and this is what they've gotten together so far. Because it seems like a lot of things are placeholder, like a lot of things are missing. Textures are missing. Textures are low polygon. Like even in the fire house is your main base of operations. The giant firehouse sticker that shows the emblem and everything is so low polygon you can't tell what it looks like a smudge on the floor. It's all it looks like. And it's like, this is the place your hub. Like, why wouldn't everything, at least in the hub, be pristine, right? It's understandable if you find like a bad texture out in the world somewhere, out in the borders or something like that. But to find one right where you start is just baffling. I don't know if Phil had to have played this game. I think what it is, and I think Pat's exactly right. I don't think they have anything besides Starfield for 2023. This game, if it was going to be pushed, it would have been pushed to 2024, probably by the end of 2024, because it needs that much work. That's why I'm afraid that there's no level of patching. I mean, there is, but there's no level of patching that is going to fix this game in any short amount of time. It's going to be years of patching before this game is even at a level that's, more playable, right? I mean, they got this game to the state of being just playable, right? You can move a character and you can shoot stuff. Great, out the door, right? I think Xbox was afraid, but I just don't understand Xbox. It's like, okay, if you're afraid you don't have anything for 2023, don't release a game that's so poor and it's going to be so poorly received that it just puts a bad light on you from your fans and critics and things like that, right? And everybody out there, I think if you look at the stuff regarding Redfall, I think everyone is just as baffled as we are. Is like, why would you release something like this? Like we hate delays, but don't release garbage and go, look, everybody, $70 garbage, because nobody's going to play it. And that just makes you, regardless if it's Arcane, regardless if it's Bethesda, Xbox is the head, Microsoft is the head, and it makes them look bad. Right? They don't look great now because they ain't got crap coming out. But if you release something bad, that's definitely just hurts you even more.
This bad, I should say. You can release something that's not great to play, right? But don't release something that's completely busted and pretend like it's ready to come out, because it should have been delayed to fix all this crap, because they can't tell me they didn't know about it. I mean, I don't know, man. It just scares the crap out of me on what's on the horizon for Microsoft. Is Phil Spencer's time? I mean, Phil Spencer's done wonders for Microsoft for the Xbox gaming, but it almost seems like the comments that he's making and stuff around Redfall and stuff, that his time is limited, right? It's almost like he's not performing it where he needs to be because Game Pass isn't doing as well as they hoped it would. I mean, they can't continue the subscriber number climb that they want, but then they're also releasing piss poor games like Redfall and and things like that. I mean, I love Game Pass, and it would be detriment if it went away. But I would imagine if Phil Spencer goes away, Game Pass might go away with him, because it's not making what Microsoft wants it to make, right? It's a money sink, I think, at some point for them, because new games come out at $70 and you're getting a $10 or $15 subscription, depending on which one you want. You get to play that game, right? It's a no-brainer to keep, even if you keep Game Pass for a whole year at the $15 mark. It's only a couple of games that they come out with those day one games. Yep. You've already saved yourself money, and I think Microsoft's losing a little bit on it because they're just not, they're just not able to compete in the first party studio or the first party games of the games that are coming to Game Pass like Sony can. And they're kind of, I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. It just kind of makes me leery about this whole thing. Redfall is a shitfall of a game. It should have been called Shitfall, not Redfall. It's the Brownfall game, guys.
Brownfall.
Yeah, they wore the brown pants in this one, but I don't know. It's not even close to being ready for release. It probably needed another 6 months to bake before it was ready. But then they don't
that'd
want
be
to
the low
release
end.
this the same time as like Starfield or anything. They don't want the games competing for time and money and all that stuff. So I believe Nick probably is right. If they would delay it, they would need to delay it 6+ months, which means it's too close to Redfall. So let's push it out until 2024, which, you know, Microsoft is, I mean, that would have been a much better solution. We would all been a little bit annoyed that another game is pushing, but you probably would have had a good solid player base playing it for a while. Then right now you have hate for the game, hate for Arcane, and hate for Microsoft. People are downright being cruel to the people with this, you know, around this when it's a bad game. It's just bad. It's not ready to come out of the oven yet. And Microsoft okayed it because, you know, Microsoft had the final say in it, but Arcane put this out there, Bethesda published it, and Microsoft said it was okay. So 3 people passed the approval on this thing and just let it go.
I think it all come down to having something out there and money. I mean, somebody's like, look, we got to get it out. We got to get it out. Our Game Pass is not holding up. So, I mean, Game Pass is a fantastic deal. I mean, even without the first party lineups dropping all the time, I mean, Sony puts out 4 to 5 first party games a year that I really enjoy, and that's not a me thing. But Microsoft's not putting any. This is, like you said, Brownfall. I mean, this is a dingleberry that dropped, and it should have stayed up there. I mean, it's a terrible thing what they've done. But I think Phil is probably just tired. I saw him in an interview saying quality games ain't gonna, something regarding quality games won't beat the console wars or something in those regards. It's like,
he's
yes,
basically saying that Microsoft doesn't have a chance in hell of pulling gamers away from Sony. He said basically in that interview, he basically was stating that Microsoft doesn't stand a chance of competing against Sony. Now, is that a ploy for the whole Activision sale? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, but that's not. That's what got Sony into their position. Games. I mean, when the 360 and PlayStation 3 released, 360 was dominant for the first half of that console, just over the first half. And then what Sony do? Dropped games, quality games, award-winning games, fantastic games. Even at overpriced PS3 turd, you know, it got them up to first place. And at the end of that console generation, Sony was leading. Games make console sales, plain and simple. If you got crap games, why would I buy your console? I mean, I buy Nintendo only for the first party games, period. I've never played anything other than a first party game on my Switch that I can think of. Maybe like Live Alive.
Especially not something on the Switch that's out on another console.
Exactly. But you know what's going to happen is they're gonna rue this. Phil's probably getting his nads chewed on by somebody higher up, and he's probably like, "Look, you made me do it." So I don't know. I don't think the total fault falls on Phil because I just can't see him wanting to release something this shitty. But I don't know, man. Maybe he's just tired and maybe he wants an out. So,
well, I mean, I'm sure it comes from higher up. I'm sure the final decision on things, but, you know, is Microsoft, is Xbox going to dethrone Sony and PlayStation? No. But if you don't make quality games for your console, then you're not competing whatsoever, right? And it's not even competing with Sony. You're not even attempting to try to get gamers out there, right? I think gamers out there, and especially a lot of PlayStation gamers, especially this time around, compared to the Xbox One, really like the Xbox Series X, right? There's a lot of, we've seen articles and various things like that when the Xbox Series X was coming out of PlayStation owners also looking for and purchasing Series X's. So a lot of those, you know, people that were mainly Sony back on Xbox One have kind of been like, oh, I kind of like, you know, the Series X and what they did with that. So I want to purchase one of those too, right? They didn't not purchase a PlayStation, but they went ahead and did that. But now you as Microsoft and you as Xbox have to give, besides Game Pass, right? You have to give a reason for those consumers to benefit from the purchase that they made, right? And right now you haven't given them a reason as to why, and you haven't given future consumers a reason to go out and purchase a $500 Series X, right? We were hoping for that reason, but so far we haven't gotten it, right? And I'm afraid that, come June, they're supposed to have their Xbox E3 thing. And I bet you a lot of those titles are going to be 2024. And Starfield won't, but I bet you Starfield's the only thing, besides maybe some low profile games, but Starfield, first party wise, is probably the only thing they have come. Well, besides Forza Motorsport. Those two are the only ones coming out this year. I guarantee that. Right? Don't want to make too much of a guarantee, but I bet you.
I think Cinema Saga will come.
No, I bet you Cinema Saga will be a 2024 release.
I mean, now, granted, one of Microsoft's biggest issue when it comes to their games, a little early on those announcements. That's their biggest goddamn problem with those games. You get me pumped for it, and then it's delay. 6 months max. That's when you should announce your games. Hey, we got this game coming out in 6 months, not 6 years, not 5 years, not 3 years, 6 months. That's when you announce it. I'm just pissy.
Yeah. And I mean, Senua Saga, like, I would be surprised if it comes out this year. But if it comes out this year, I would be afraid that it's more of Microsoft pushing it out the door than it's ready.
They've been working on that for years now. It's now Redfall. What was that announced last year? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know for sure the bake time of it.
I think it's been in development for 5 years.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the announcement. I'm talking about the announcement. So
2021. They announced it in 2021. GE3 2021. Okay. So June. So 2 years, almost 2 years ago.
So Cinema Saga was announced, 5 years ago? It was like announced right when the Xbox Series X was announced, if I remember right at that time. But
you got to remember though, with Senua Saga 2, that's going to be an Unreal Engine 5 game.
Yeah, they postponed that because Unreal 5. Yeah.
Yep, that is a good point.
It was announced back in 2019, but then they Hellblade Satsuna 2, Hellblade 2, excuse me, was announced in 2019. So, but they also decided that they're going to do Unreal 5, so that adds added development time to retool it. So, but I mean, it is what it is. I know Redfall's earned, I think last time I checked, was $4 million in sales. I don't know what it costs to develop the game, but they're probably not going to make what they put into it at this point, unless they only put like $1 million into it. But I doubt that, since it's been in development for 5 years. So they probably spent way more than that. They're not going to recoup it, and they're not going to, it's a ding on their reputation, in my opinion. There was a whole thing where Phil was talking about delaying the game wouldn't fix the problems with it, because the problems are the fundamental issue with the game isn't technical, it's vision of the game, the creative vision of the game. But I find that's bullshit, in my opinion, because there's technical issues out the ass that make this game horrible to play. That may have been overlooked.
Yeah, you can't see the vision because everything is broke and low res and nasty. It's
like we said, the direction for the game is good on paper, right? Like what they're doing, vampires, cooperative looter shooter. Hey, I'm there, and so are 4 million people that took the plunge, right? And probably would have been more if it wasn't for the
$4 million. It's like 70,000 copies or something like that.
$4 million. So however many copies that is, but still, I mean, I think people were excited for Redfall, right? I think a lot of people were hoping this would be a good game. And if Microsoft could have brought this out, this would have really boosted, and it be good. This would have really boosted people's idea of, and get them really excited for Starfield and the future of Xbox. But you bring out something like this, and now people are disappointed, right? They're kind of uncertain with the future of Xbox and how things are going to go.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, because June, showcases are all coming up. I don't know. I love my Xbox, but I agree with you guys. My butt's puckering.
Yep. Well, we probably better stop kicking this dead horse down the road. You guys got anything else before we drop the curtain on Redfall? We gotta stake this vampire. It's getting gnarly. Let us know what you think. Did you play Redfall? What are your thoughts on this, and what do you think at the state of Microsoft after a game like this? After they release a game like this, and they, everybody loves Phil, but at this point, I think there's a lot of disingenuous stuff coming from him. And I don't know if it's because of higher ups or what's going on, but it seems disingenuous in the latest articles and interviews that he's done. So let us know what you think down in the comments. And you reached the end of this episode. If you're not subscribed, why not? Help us out. All these subscribers help us out, help us keep doing what we do and making new videos. And hit that bell for notifications so you get notified of new videos that we put out every week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and hope to catch you next one.
See ya.